So this is the my audio commentary for the first episode of the college sitcom 15th Street, which my college roommates and I made. It was 15 years. There I am. It was 15 years ago now that we made this. Back in 2006, I think it was late 2006 that we made this. We used the comical beeps ripping off Arrested Development. There's my college roommate Andrew. There's Ben. So yeah, so we shot this episode. I want to say it was over 3 days. I think one day was entirely filming this opening sequence here, maybe the next scene. So we had this idea for this scene. I'm not sure if it actually came across on camera, what we were even trying to say was happening here. It was that Ben was going to step on this. So Andrew was cleaning the bathroom floor. Ben stepped on some glass and the blood. That blood looked pretty good, actually. That was pretty good looking. But then the idea was that the blood was going to keep gushing out and get across the entire floor into the bathroom, as you can see here, but unfortunately it looked a little just looks like some spilled cranberry juice. So I don't know if the gag properly even came across on camera there. I think our ideas were something a little bit more over the top comedic. There was like a gushing blood out of an artery, kind of like spraying everywhere, and yeah, it didn't quite come across on camera the way I think we had kind of pictured in our mind's eye when we wrote it. Here, of course, we're using the Dawson's Creek theme for the intro, which I think is rather humorous. This is, in fact, actually filmed on 15th Street in Manhattan. That's where we lived, 15th Street and 6th Avenue. That was the actual exterior of our apartment. This is the actual interior of our apartment, which was a pretty small space to film. Of course, I can't even imagine how much expensive this space, because of three bedrooms and the main area there. God, the rent there is probably $10,000 a month these days, 15 years later. But anyway, so yeah, so here's our various comedic banter. I don't know how particularly well written it actually is, but I do like the camera work style, the various pop-ins and pop-ins. Obviously, we were I think only one season of The Office had aired at this point. I don't know if we'd even watched it yet. So this is almost exclusively inspired by Arrested Development, where the way the cameras would pop in and out. I do think the camera work is kind of funny. I don't know how funny the dialogue actually is. Certainly, I don't know how funny my performance is. Never was a especially talented actor on any level. The initial idea for this series, I think me and Andrew had initially come up with the idea for it, I think our sophomore year. We filmed this our junior year. The idea was, again, as I'm going to keep coming back to again and again, Arrested Development. I think the way we had initially pitched it was just as a show called, I think just called Tim and Andrew, where I was going to be the meek, demure George Michael type character who was always embarrassed, and he was going to be the over-the-top, boisterous Job type character who is kind of a comedic asshole, which we definitely maintained that element with Andrew's character. The George Michael-ish, meek, constantly humiliated type aspects, we used a little of that for the Tim character, but I think we ended up using that more for the Ben character, whereas I just became a bit more of a bizarre type of figure, maybe almost a bit of a Tobias influence, going back to the Arrested Development comparison. Anyway, as you can see here, we're trying to invite various people to the raging party we want to throw to get laid, and failing to invite people. This actually was our real neighbor in the subsequent apartment who, I think prior to asking her if she'd do this role for us as the girl I had failed to invite to the party, I think we'd spoken to her about one time ever. And we were just like, do we want to go find a girl from class to bring out to play this role? Should we just actually ask our real neighbor if she'll give us 10 minutes of her time to do that? And she did. But yeah, so here we're filming in a tiny bedrooms, the size roughly of closets, roughly of broom closets. But we but we made it work, I think, more or less. But Oh man, by the standards of more of an adult, I think a lot of these couches were probably fairly dirty at the time. And oh yeah, look at this glorious 240p filming. Gotta love that. Yeah, this is the quality of cameras we had available at the time. I do kind of envy some of the young people these days who can just film just as long. You would want the sound assist. They'd probably want to get some nice boom mic and a sound, nice microphone if you were filming like a little student sitcom. But you could just film on your cell phones these days, and it would look 10,000 times better than any of this did, certainly. So the idea for this whole gag. Again, I'm not 100% sure. Oh, I do like how Andrew covers his mouth with the spoon there to censor the swear. Another thing we stole from Arrested Development. So the idea is that Andrew is making bootleg alcohol because we're like too young to afford it. We don't have fake IDs. Again, that's another thing that I'm not sure if it came off on camera quite as well as we had kind of imagined it, as keenly in our mind's eyes when we were writing it. So now currently Tim is having a breakdown about the girls he invited to the party rejecting him, which of course, now we have this, Tim has clown shoes on. Very, very funny, very, very amusing that Tim has clown shoes on. And eventually Tim will, over the course of the series, will turn towards men instead of women. His inability to catch a girl in a way that would probably be considered vaguely problematic these days, but by the standards of sitcoms back then, I don't know that any of the gay jokes were any more offensive than any of the ones with Tobias on Arrested Development. So anyway, yeah, they're chattering about the party we're planning on holding at the apartment. Again, this is one of those things that Ben's telling Andrew not to hit on his cousin, and Andrew's disagreeing. But anyway, so the party, we had the idea of... I like that. Again, this is one of those things where it probably would have worked a lot better if we had actually been able to secure like a dozen or so extras to be at the party. Unfortunately, we only were able to invite kind of a few kind of actors we knew from school one by one, and a lot of these scenes were filmed separately. I don't think there was ever actually any more than about 3 people, 3 other quote-unquote actors in the apartment with us at one time, so we're trying to fake things. If we were to do this again these days, what I probably would have tried to do is actually do like a kind of storyboard it. I mean, you know, with stick figures, but have a few specific shots, you know, where we could maybe try to find a way to have about a maybe see if we could get like a 10 or a dozen people to come over for just like give them a free meal, just like for like say maybe half an hour, where we had like 3 or 4 specific shots we could do with dialogue with the extras in the background, that even those little bits would give it the illusion of there being more people there than we ever actually had. Like, I kind of think of like watching like Cobra Kai. Like, if you actually watch the tournament in season 4, it's interesting to watch and think about how most of the shots in the tournament are with the camera facing forward, so they only need to have the fighters, but they just occasionally will throw in a shot from the other angle, so you see the extras in the stands. That kind of gives you the illusion that the people are there when actually they probably weren't there for 90% of the filming. We should have done a similar thing. There's our friend Ned playing Davey, who brought the steaks. Yeah, that's about the maximum number of people we ever had in the apartment at one time in the background there. There's our actress playing Ben's cousin. Another thing we would... now, she never actually ended up coming back for any subsequent episodes. In the way we had initially outlined the series, we were again just going to blatantly rip off Arrested Development and have Ben fall in love with his cousin. We never got around to that storyline. As we do future episodes, I'll go through some of the many additional storylines that we... this party sucks. The many additional storylines that we had that we didn't get around to yet. We only ended up making 5 episodes. We had outlined a whole season, a 13-episode season that we never... Oh, here they're quoting Anakin and Padme dialogue in Attack of the Clones. And this is before prequel chic took off. We were early to the everyone still hated and made fun of the prequels at this point. So we were pretty we were early on the bandwagon. There was no prequel fan base at this point. We were early to that trend. And now here's where my character Tim is gradually becoming gay, which is like I said, definitely maybe a little vaguely offended. I don't think you could fly with these jokes in a sitcom probably these days, but I don't think we meant it in any ill way. We were just kind of again ripping off Tobias in Arrested Development, but yeah, but so now he's coming to the realization. But it's yeah, so some of the gag you saw earlier, we the character Davey brought his steaks over and we threw him in the bathtub. The idea is that it was going to look like human remains in a bathtub full of ice. The idea is that later a character who hasn't arrived at the party yet will mistake us for cannibals who are dismembering corpses and keeping them in the bathtub. What we probably should have done is gone out to some sort of a prop store or party store, Halloween store, and bought like a stuffed person and dismembered the actual parts and covered them in red corn syrup to look like human body parts or something like that. This is one bit where I'm not even sure if the gag is visually communicated at all, that our party guests are supposed to think that we're cannibals. So anyway, so now Tim's going to have his gay encounter. Oh no, here's our... I think we're about to have another... here's the girl who will mistake us for cannibals. And yeah, so I think this is another thing that was shot. I believe that... I don't believe this actress was ever in any scenes with Clara. I didn't even remember that was the character's name. Yeah, I believe she is completely alone in the apartment with us at the point we're shooting this. I don't think anyone else is there. Yeah, but what can I say? It was hard to get all of our party extras in the room at the same time. So I think we had like people coming in over the course of a few days. One person showing up, shot their stuff over an hour. A couple more people showed up. She likes Ben because his foot is wounded. But yeah, I think that was, yeah, there's no one else except her. So yeah, if we do this today, I'd try to plan it out a little better so that there's actually, we have a few shots of like a dozen people in the background at one time. Here's our frat boy villain. So we had another storyline we didn't get around to in future episodes. So I think it was Andrew was going to join the frat. I think it was either he might have drinking a potion or had a magical curse put on him, or he would actually turn into an alternate persona called Skylar Popcollar, I believe was going to be the alternate version character's name, who would have like we'd have a whole sequence of him being in with the frat. And I can't remember if it was planned to be because we do have a multiple episode arc coming up. In fact, most of the series, 3 out of 5 episodes, is going to be one story arc. I can't remember if the Skylar Popcollar saga was planned to be multiple episodes or if it was just gonna be a 1-episode thing. But yeah, we had this whole frat story planned out that we never got to. I do like this costume change where suddenly Ben is wearing the Zoot suit. I think that's pretty funny. It's because it's a very simple concept. We're not trying to communicate a multi-part thing where we have a bathtub full of ice and steaks with blood on the floor that someone mistakes for a cannibal corpse Holocaust thing. Instead, it's just someone's wearing a funny suit. That's the sort of visual gag we could actually pull off. I do like that ice there. I believe this was, in fact, not a faked location. I think this was filmed in my actual bedroom in the apartment, which again is basically it was a mattress on the floor, which we're currently sitting on, with less than a mattress length space in front of it. But yeah, I do believe that was actually shot in the bedroom with, again, only that. I can't remember the actor's name off the top of my head. Most of these people I haven't interacted with in 15 years. Anyway, so then she sees do like the gong sound effect, the blood all over the bathroom. And this is kind of something that was not properly communicated from, I think, the first scene. So she thinks that we're slashers, but so in the first scene we were supposed to, as we scripted, have a burst artery in the foot, in Ben's foot, that was going to be spraying blood all over the apartment. That would visually communicate better why there was blood all over the bathroom. And here you heard Ben was going to be talking about slaughtering him, and I feel like we should have filled the bathtub up again. We should have got more ice, but if we didn't, we were broke college students. We didn't want to pay a bunch for bags of ice, and had maybe found some way to spray blood out of a tube to it was really that first sequence wasn't quite, didn't quite show why the bathroom got as bloody as, oh, and here's everyone's throwing up from the, alcohol that Ben made, thus ruining the party, and they came across okay. I think maybe we should have had people spewing the vomit out of their mouths, you know, like, doing full-on spit takes with it. Maybe, so we had this idea of kind of like there would be blood and vomit kind of coating every surface of the apartment, and it would be like extras in the background, like, you know, a dozen extras covered in blood and vomit. Oh, here's the gay experience. And we had we had this idea in our mind, more of like a blood and vomit spraying everywhere, and everyone screaming and running out, you know, like full chaos, you know, the sort of things where they play like wacky music. And I don't know if it quite came off. Yeah, like there should have been blood and vomit everywhere, and I don't know if it quite came off the way we had imagined, something a bit more wacky than what we had what we were able to pull off. I don't know, maybe there would have been a way to pull it off even with our 2006 level cameras and boom mics. Just think maybe we needed to make a bigger vat of yellow oatmeal to have people spewing everywhere. Maybe we needed blood spraying out of a tube on Ben's ankle. Yeah, so it just didn't quite come off the way. Anyway, so now the frat guys have stolen Ben's cousin, and they're gonna bang her, and they stole Andrew's romantic interest. Yeah, so we pictured a little more chaos in the background. So anyway, then he runs out, and he's sad because Tim led him on. But anyway, so then I'm gonna run up shirtless, and yeah, so and then so I'm supposed to be kind of looking around at the chaos here, but there's not quite as much chaos as we'd kind of pictured. We pictured all the surfaces in the apartment ruined. Oh, and then I forgot, she's still in there, and she still thinks that we're serial killers, and I don't know if that quite came off, but yeah. So anyway, that's the party episode. That's the pilot of 15th Street. Now Tim's gonna vomit too, I believe, and they're gonna acknowledge that this party was a total disaster. Oh, Eric, that was his name. Yeah, but anyway, so that was the pilot of 15th Street. We had a more ambitious idea in mind, I think, than what actually, because we had pictured, you know, a dozen extras and the actors we had there, and blood and vomit everywhere. Don't know if it totally came off quite as epic as we'd pictured. Anyway, that was our first attempt at a little sitcom pilot, filmed for a budget of, what, probably $50. And with our actors coming in and out and filming with them one at a time over the course of a few days. So yep, that was a 15th Street pilot.